A key element for proper governance is visibility into what is happening in your digital environment and having the ability to identify patterns and take action if anything is out of order. Earlier this year, we've released the new tenant-level analytics in the Power Platform Admin Center. These new reports give you a great bird's-eye view to what is happening in your tenant. Let me move over to the demo station and show you some of these new capabilities. Here I am in the Power Platform Admin Center, and I navigated to the Power Apps Reports page. On the top right, you could see the new tenant-level analytics toggle. This leads me to the new set of reports. Starting with the Usage tab, I see the top apps and their usage activity based on unique users. Switching to the Makers tab lets me learn about my most active makers, the overall number of active apps, and this table at the bottom shows me the apps, their owners, and if they've been shared with others. Moving to the Inventory tab, I could see the full list of all our apps. I could use the filters to identify apps that have been inactive and should be cleared. I could get a bird's-eye view of flows if I switch to the Power Automate page. In this Usage tab, I could see the popular flows and drill down to learn more about their success and failure rates. All these reports provide me a month's worth of insights, and I could use the chart to identify patterns. For example, here I could see that earlier in August, there was a spike in failure rates that looked suspicious. And I suspect it's got to do with a policy change that I did that ended up blocking some of the flows. It's an opportunity for me to reach out to the flow owners and see if there's any concerns. Switching to the Makers tab, I see the details on my top flow makers, and the Inventory tab is where I could go and see the list of all the flows in the system. Here again, I could use the filters to identify specific flows. For example, I could filter to only see the flows from developer environments. Now let me switch to the data export page. This is where I go to set up data export for advanced analytics. I connect to my Azure Data Lake, which will also let me retain data for longer and allow me to build custom reports. And the best way for me to demo some of the custom reports is by showing you the Center of Excellence Starter Kit. We have built the COE toolkit using our low-code platform. It is a great governance tool used by thousands of customers. It is a downloadable package of dashboards, apps, and flows that we refresh monthly and provide as an open source for the community or you to customize further. With that, I'm pleased to announce that the new installation wizard is now in preview, which not only simplifies the installation process, but it also gives you a choice to connect directly to the data lake that I just showed in the export page. And the advantage of doing so includes cost saving and running the tool at high scale. Let me demo some of those COE toolkit reports and how you can extend the data export to combine data from other data sources. So I switched over to the COE Starter Toolkit. On the Power BI portal, you could see Monitor, Govern, and Nurture categories. This package is extremely rich, but I'm going to focus on Monitor. Let's pick the Flow License Assessment report as an example to show you how these reports pull data from additional sources like the org tree info. Here, I can drill down to find which flows are using premium connectors and specifically which department owns these flows. First on my list is the COE toolkit. Switching to using the new data lake integration will make this bar go away. Next in line is the HR department, and I could go deep dive into connectors to learn how HR is using Dataverse and desktop flows. In this case, we might decide to reach out to the HR team and ask them to pay for the licenses that they've been using. Now that I showed you a custom report with data coming from different sources, I also want to show you how the data gets stored for longer. If I pick, for example, the Power Apps Adoption Report, you could see the bottom tile has data collected since 2019. Since data is collected in my own store, I get to decide how long I want to retain the signals. Now that we've seen both the out-of-the-box and custom reports, let's switch to talk about what actions you can take. With the new capabilities in the visibility space, you can now start doing reactive governance. Identify if there's anything out of order, like an app that should not be there, and take actions like quarantining or deleting an app if needed. Earlier this year, we've released App Quarantine and App Access Control that are a few examples of actions that you can take. The next thing I'd like to show you is more about how you could do proactive governance. If there are patterns that you find when monitoring adoption, you can start using the data policy engine to set rules across the tenant or on dedicated environments. You can use the data policies to block or limit connectors, and you can use the new tenant isolation capabilities to restrict what tenant-to-tenant collaboration should be permitted in your environments. Let me show you a few of these capabilities. Back to the Power Platform Admin Center. First, let me show you tenant isolation. This new security feature allows me to block external users from running automation, even if they have access to our tenant. Since we at Fabricam work closely with Contoso, I am going to only allow cross-collaboration between Contoso and Fabricam before I hit save. The next thing to show is what we've added in the data policy space. A maker has asked me to allow her to connect to SQL Server. So I'm going to use edit policy to change an existing data policy, in this case, Fabricam restricted. I already blocked all the unapproved connectors in this policy. And you could see the SQL connector is placed in blocked. Instead of allowing access to any SQL server, now I could use endpoint filtering to specify the SQL to unblock and then block all the rest. I also want to prevent applications from deleting items in the database. So I'm going to use action control to block deletion. All that is left is to move SQL to the permitted list, hit next a few times, and save my changes. And just like that, my tenant stays protected while the maker is unblocked. We recognize that there's a lot to learn as we continue to introduce new powerful tools to allow you to both reactive and proactive govern your Power Platform.
Today, we are announcing that Managed Environments is generally available. Nearly 1,000 organizations are already using Managed Environments in preview, including some of the largest companies on the planet. They're getting more visibility into how low-code is adopted across their organization, more control with sharing limits that restrict how broadly apps can be shared, and they're doing all of this with less effort, thanks to easy, out-of-the-box activation. Now, Managed Environments is a key part of the Power Platform family, in the same way that AI Builder infuses intelligence into our products, and Dataverse provides the data backbone. Managed Environments streamlines governance of the platform at scale. So here I am in the Power Platform Admin Center. I want to go ahead and activate Managed Environments. I just choose the environment and pick the options I want, whether to limit sharing in the environment or get usage insights. So I'm just going to stick with the defaults. And just like that, I've upgraded to a managed environment. So let's talk about how Managed Environments gives you more visibility. So I can add brand new insight cards on the Admin Center homepage that shows me top makers, top apps, and top flows across my organization, as well as stale apps and flows that haven't been used in a while. There's no need to set up a data lake or dig through analytics reports. Key adoption trends in the environments I care about are right there on the homepage. And I can get these insights delivered straight to my inbox with the weekly Admin Digest emails. I can see at a glance that these apps haven't been used in a while and should get cleaned up. Now, Managed Environments requires all users running apps or flows in that environment to have a standalone Power Apps or Power Automate license. And we've heard from customers that license management and knowing who's licensed for what is just hard. Well, with the new license reports, I can easily see which environments might need license attention, how many users are active in the environment, and what licenses are being used so I can make the most of my licenses. And with Managed Environments, I can also get one-click visibility into the data policies that are active for the environment. Zohar showed earlier what you can do with DLP policies. Well, here I can easily see which ones have been applied to this environment, making it easier to keep my data safe. We showed you how Manage Environments gives you more visibility with usage insights on the homepage, admin digest emails, license reports, and quick data policy views. Now let's talk about how Manage Environments gives you more control. With sharing limits, I can restrict how widely Canvas apps and solution flows are shared. I can choose to block sharing with security groups and set a limit for how many people an app can be shared with. Or I can restrict sharing to only security groups, a new option that lets you take advantage of your Active Directory group setup. So let's say this is a personal productivity environment and I want to cap sharing to 2 people to reduce the blast radius in case there's an issue with an app that you don't want available to everyone. Now, if we go to share an app with more than 2 users, the sharing is blocked and they can be directed to documentation that's specific to their organization and learn, for example, how to move that app to a production environment for broad distribution. Manage Environments also gives me more control over what apps and flows get published to production. I can configure Solution Checker, which contains dozens of security and reliability rules, to run automatically whenever a solution is imported into this environment. And I can decide if a security vulnerability or unsafe customization is detected, whether the whole import should be blocked, or if I just want a warning. So let's set this to block. Now, if someone goes to import a solution and Checker detects a security or reliability vulnerability, that import will be blocked. And the report will explain what rules failed. Now, blocking bad apps from getting to production is great, but what if you could reduce the number of bad apps from getting created in the first place? Well, with Manage Environments, you can customize the maker's onboarding experience in the product with content that's specific to your organization to help makers build safe, secure, and compliant apps from the start. I can just add my content right here. It can be plain text or include Markdown for formatting and images. And now when someone goes to create an app for the first time, they'll be prompted with this custom content directly in the product. And I can include onboarding links, training videos, or security policies for my organization to equip makers with the right resources out of the gate. Now we've talked about how Managed Environments gives you more control with sharing limits, security and reliability validations, and the ability to customize the maker onboarding experience. Now let's talk about how Managed Environments means less effort. We know that governing a low-code platform today for large numbers of users requires a lot of manual work and expertise. Our vision for Managed Environments is to streamline, simplify, and automate much of that work. Everything you've seen here, from sharing limits to automated security validations to usage insights, can be activated out of the box with just a few clicks, saving admins time and effort. I'd like to show you one more feature coming later this year that makes administering the Power Platform considerably less effort. We've heard from customers that ALM, or Application Lifecycle Management, in the Power Platform is challenging. In many organizations, makers manually export and import solutions from development to production environments, but this approach is not only labor-intensive and error-prone, but it really limits IT visibility and control. Some customers have automated this process with pro-dev tools like Azure DevOps or GitHub. However, setting all that up is really complex, and the tools are just too hard for citizen makers to use. So later this year, we will eliminate much of that complexity by bringing ALM automation into the product and making it accessible to all makers with Power Platform pipelines. Let's take a look. So this is the solution I'm working with here in the Maker portal. I've gone ahead to select this pipeline that's already been set up. Pipelines are basically a series of automated steps that move your work from one environment to another. This pipeline will take my solution from the development environment on the left to the test environment. And then there's another stage to take it from test to production. So let's deploy to test, hit next, and here I'll confirm my connections to the test environment to make sure I'm using the right credentials. Next, I'll configure my environment variables to make sure, for example, that I'm pointing to the right SharePoint site in test. So let's pick that one. And this is important if the site in test is different than the one I was using in development. And once I set it all up, I can just hit deploy, and pre-flight validations are automatically run to make sure I've got the right dependencies and the solution doesn't violate any DLP policies in that target environment. The pipeline can also be set up so that approval is required before the deployment can run. Looks like everything was successful here. Now, after I've run my pipeline, I get full visibility and an audit trail of the deployments across my organization, with every solution backed up and versioned. This feature has been in the works for a while, and we're excited for how pipelines will finally bring ALM automation to all makers, not just pro devs, and give admins the tools they need to control what goes to production. And this is just the beginning of our journey. We are investing heavily in managed environments, and we'll be adding more features in the coming months to provide IT admins with more visibility, more control, with less effort. Now, the features we walk through will be rolled out in phases. Some of them, like the admin digest and sharing limits, are available today. The rest will be rolling out by the end of the year. So in the coming weeks and months, you'll see usage insights on the homepage, new trends in the admin digest, and reports for license usage. Sharing limits will get more controls and support solution flows, and you'll be able to block unsafe deployments with Solution Checker. The custom maker onboarding and pipeline capabilities will also come later this year. Now, managed environments is included with standalone Power Apps and Power Automate licenses, which makes it well suited for customers that are all in on the Power Platform. And when you enable managed environments, all users who run apps or flows in that environment will need a Power Apps or Power Automate standalone license. So, on top of access to hundreds of premium connectors and the rich capabilities of Dataverse, the standalone license now includes all these built-in governance capabilities. And you can learn more and get started using the link on the screen.